Jennifer and her husband Kendall, like many American couples, wanted to settle down and start a family. After trying to conceive for several years, Jennifer felt hopeless and desperate to find a way to have a baby of her own. Surrogacy, an alternative to traditional pregnancy, seemed like a plausible solution. She found that paying a woman to be implanted with her embryo, carry her baby to term, and then deliver the child is very expensive in the United States. Jennifer knew she didn't have $70,000 for an American surrogate mother. When all seemed lost, she discovered an article online about another, more affordable surrogacy option. At clinics all across India, women like Jennifer could be matched with an Indian surrogate mother that would be monitored and cared for by the professionals there. Over the past decade, women in Jennifer's situation have increasingly been going overseas to India to find women to carry their baby for a fraction of the cost in the United States. The Indian mothers can sometimes earn, by some estimates, 3 to 10 times their yearly salaries, and the American mothers can finally have a baby in their arms that they never thought they could. Some would say this is a win-win situation for all parties. However, this new trend is more complicated than it may seem.
As a result of the various negative consequences for the surrogate mothers, and because of the dire economic conditions that forced their decision to act as carriers, many critics have charged that this situation represents a clear case of exploitation, one that they fear will only grow more severe.
To fully understand the consequences of this arrangement, we must first consider the underlying roots of the issue.
In the United States, laws regulating surrogacy are decided on a state-by-state basis. While certain states, such as California, Florida, and Massachusetts, have passed legislation that allow for surrogacy, and even enforce surrogacy agreements, the legal situation is more problematic in much of the country. Many states criminalize any form of paid surrogacy, but the majority have no specific legislation concerning surrogacy whatsoever. India, on the other hand, has had legalized commercial surrogacy since 2002, and is currently the only country in the world where this is the case. This industry has grown since that time, and is effectively regulated by a government board that has established clear guidelines that grant extensive rights to the American intended parents. The ambiguous, and often treacherous character of this process in America, relative to that of India, can factor into couples' decisions to send their surrogate pregnancy abroad. Typically, though, the extremely low comparative cost of a pregnancy in India is the main reason guiding this decision. The combined cost of the surrogacy program, which includes compensation for the carrier, the fertilization, and a number of other services, can range anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 in the United States. In India, the majority of these same services are offered as a package at clinics for only $10,000 to $30,000, a sizable difference that has fueled the growth of Indian fertility tourism.
How does outsourcing work? Most potential parents, like Jennifer and Kendall, stumble upon a website for one of the thousands of clinics in India. In many of these clinics, the parents then must pass a test to ensure that they are actually fit to handle the child. However, many clinics still do not use this method. Instead, they use a contract system to ensure that the child will be taken rather than being left to the clinic or the Indian mother. The parents are then assigned a surrogate mother in whom the embryo is planted. Over the next 9 months, the surrogate mother is cared for in the clinic, which features hospital beds and a staff of doctors and nurses who assist the mothers. The parents can be as involved as they want, although they are required by most clinics to be there when the child is born. This is not usually an issue because most parents stay with their surrogate mothers for most of the 9 months. After the child is born, the parents must sort out a way back to their home country and apply to make their baby a citizen of their nation.
So what are the benefits to the Indian surrogate mother? Well, let's start with the money. According to Dr. Kaushal Kadam at the Rotunda Clinic in Mumbai, surrogate mothers take on this job to give their children a better education, to buy a home, and even to start up a small business. This is as much money as they could earn in maybe 3 years, he says. One single mother in Delhi found that her monthly wages of 2,800 rupees, about $69, as a midwife were not enough to raise her 9-year-old son. So she decided to become a surrogate and with the more than $13,600 she earned, she bought a house. She's returned to become a second-time surrogate mother and hopes to pay for her son's education with the money. "I will save the money for my child's future," she said. By some estimates, Indian surrogacy is already a $445 million a year business.
For an Indian woman to make up to 3 times their usual yearly salary by being a surrogate mother, she often must make sacrifice. Most of the time, it's a social sacrifice. Not only do most surrogate mothers report they don't feel properly treated by the clinics, but often the social stigma associated with the surrogate pregnancy is too much to handle. India is an extremely socially conservative country, and especially in southern India, the concept of surrogacy is not understood. Often their pregnancy is interpreted as the woman having a baby out of wedlock or with a man other than her husband. One Indian mother, Rahita, felt that she needed to flee her village during the duration of her pregnancy to avoid being treated like what she calls a social pariah.
Currently, India has very flexible laws, barely restricting surrogacy at all. However, since a dramatic increase in the use of Indian surrogate mothers, the Indian National Assembly has begun working on a bill that would restrict surrogate mothers from having more than 2 surrogate children. This is more an effort to limit the health risks of having 5 or 6 surrogate children for another family, on top of the 4 children that an average Indian family typically has. This bill has not even been brought up for vote yet, so it could be a while before it gets passed. The Indian government has another bill in its early stages, which will require a database for all surrogate mothers. The major stalling is that the Indian government has no interest in really limiting the booming business of surrogacy. The United States government has done nothing to limit or slow Indian surrogacy, and as long as Americans keep using this option, it appears the USA will not place limitations in the near future.